I'm about to speak to Roger Wade, who's the founder of Boxpark. Roger and I recorded his podcast for Conversations of Inspiration, and it was a fantastic conversation. I remember talking about Brexit and his journey, and it was so inspiring. But what was brilliant about it is he treated me to a wonderful Indian in his Wembley Boxpark centre, full of independence, full of spirit, full of community. And I can't wait to talk to Roger about how he's navigated the last 12 weeks when his whole business is about people coming together. And now when we're thinking about opening up our stores, I know there's one man who can definitely help us and give us some sound advice on the journey that we're on. How are you?
Very good. My first ever Instagram Live.
I love it. Thank you. Bless you for your time today. I would love to get into your business, and I was just saying to the guests, you know, how difficult this time must have been for you, but just you personally, how have you navigated this time?
It's been weird, Holly, because I mean, weirdly, it's actually been quite good as well as obviously difficult. I mean, it's difficult from a business perspective because obviously we've got all of our sites closed. We've gone from maybe turning over £250,000 a week to losing £25,000 a week. So I've described it as the most expensive holiday I've ever had. So, but I think from a personal perspective, I've sort of enjoyed it. I've sort of enjoyed the simplicity of life and just being with the family and the family are not running around everywhere. And just appreciating the simplicity of life, really. I think sometimes we're guilty of just sort of running around like headless chickens, and actually just simple things like cooking at home and, you know, just spending time with the family, just being out in the garden. And I mean, we set up, I think one day we set up a home cinema in our back garden, for instance. I mean, it was just little things, and, you know, that's been absolutely delightful. So yes, I'm looking forward to getting back to normal, but I've also enjoyed a little bit of time off.
Tell me though, also before we get into your business, a lot of founders have reflected exactly what you're saying. And a lot of founders I've spoken to, John from Leon or Asma from Darjeeling Kitchens, you know, said that actually for the first time potentially in decades, they've sort of reconnected with themselves.
Yeah.
Have you felt that at all?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, not that you can tell, I've probably never been fitter. I was lucky enough to get a Peloton bike just before the lockdown. So I've been using that sort of every day. And yeah, I think, as I said before, just, I mean, spending a lot of time thinking about what I want to do, and in a really weird way, feeling really refreshed because you have had this time off, and sort of almost without needing to, I've been coming into the office just sort of deliberately because I just want to keep a bit of consistency. I think it's a period of really thinking to yourself, of appreciating what you've got. I think as entrepreneurs sometimes we're really guilty because we're just trying to get from A to B as quick as possible. And I think definitely during this period, I've really sort of enjoyed sort of saying, look, you know, I've got enough. What I've got is good. I don't need to be constantly rushing. Why am I constantly rushing? What is this sort of more sort of mentality, and sort of appreciating, as I said, what I've got has been great.
Yeah, that's it's such a great point. I would love to come back to that because I think there is that thing, isn't there, that you're constantly trying to be in survival mode, in which case more is better and faster is better. And, you know, and actually, you know, there's a real lesson for all of us to be learned here. Tell me though, you're in one of the most, you know, the worst hit industries there has been during this pandemic, hospitality, but also combined, isn't it, by physical retail. And you said on social media that you put the business into hibernation. How did you navigate that? Was that just an easy, well, it was obviously a given decision to you, but how did you actually go through the motions of doing that?
It's a good question. It's weird. I sort of equated the whole sort of COVID-19 situation almost like a game of Monopoly. Obviously not you know, I appreciate the seriousness of COVID-19, but I'm involved in property, I'm involved in operations. And in the game of Monopoly, for all of those that played it, it's about conserving your cash, and it's the last person standing. So we straight away looked at our cash reserves, and we were in a fortunate position to realise that actually we could go up to 12 months earning cash in the business and still survive. And I am shocked by the number of businesses out there that with less than 3 months of income coming in, they've not been able to survive. So our thing was really about preserving cash. And in our business, there's only really 3 fundamentals of cost that we need to focus on. And they were rent, or any businesses, it's rent. In our situation, our landlords have been really helpful and in most cases given us some rent breaks. There's rates, and what the government has done in terms of business rates has been absolutely fantastic. And then there's the staffing, and obviously the furlough scheme has been incredible. And if you don't have the day-to-day operational costs, they're the 3 major costs. So we chose to furlough all our staff, don't really fight it, just realise this is a period in which nothing's going to really be happening. So let's just say to our staff, just spend some time with your family at home and just conserve our cash.
And do you think that for you, I mean, you've got your spaces, and I was trying to describe it before you came on, are relatively big. You think about these tiny independents, on the high street where 2 meters is the actual width of their shop. Do you think that so you're going to be able to potentially weather that storm more with this 2 meter rule? But do you think this will come down to 1 meters?
I mean, there's so much inconsistency in terms of the government guidelines, really. And so I think the reality is, I think we need to relax the 2 meter social distancing rules along the lines of what the WHO say, which is a 1 meter social distancing rule. I think it's a hard truth for the population maybe to understand, but I strongly suspect that COVID-19, there won't be a magic vaccine. We haven't had a magic vaccine for flu, and hundreds of millions of people have died from flu. And I think that we're going to have to live with COVID-19. I think the reality is we need to be doing a better job of taking care of the vulnerable, the over 65, or those people that are susceptible to COVID-19. But for the rest of us that are under 65, that are reasonably healthy, the reality is that we've got as much chance of dying from flu as we have from COVID-19. And that's not belittling COVID-19. Flu is a really serious illness, but it is a reality. We've got to live with it. So we need to have a much more holistic approach about, look, is the lockdown worse than the actual problem and the repercussions from that? Never mind about the economy and what the repercussions of job losses in terms of mental illness, in terms of depression, and in terms of reduction in people's lives. So I think, look, we need to come out of lockdown. I think we need to get back to a reasonable norm. Of course, we've got to do it safely. Of course, we've got to introduce procedures to make sure they're safe. But definitely something like the 2 meter rule, we've got to revisit that. The rent thing is what I really want to speak about. And again,
please do, because it was my next question.
It's absolutely huge, okay? And I really appreciate the help that the government have given in terms of the salary furlough scheme and what they've done in terms of rate. But the way I equate it, it's like the Monty Python sketch where the knight gets both his arms chopped off. Okay, my arm has been chopped off on one side, which is the salary scheme, and it's been sewn back on, and I'm not going to bleed to death from that. But unless I resolve the situation of rent, which is my other arm that's been cut off, I'm going to bleed to death. That's a reality. And all the good help that's been done in terms of rates and in terms of salaries has been a waste of time. Because at the end of June, the rent enforcement moratorium could end. That means you're going to have a whole quarter's rent deferred. And that means that everyone's going to have a liability of a quarter's rent with no income during that period. And never mind the fact, going forward, we've got social distancing to deal with, or should we say safe distancing for a better word, you know, and we're not going to have the income stream. So at the moment, what we're proposing is that everyone sits down together and there is a national timeout. And that national timeout might be a 9-month period, starting with Q2 last year, from the 1st of April, okay? And it might be that landlords say, look, we understand this is not a time to make money, and we're willing to reduce our rent for a period of 9 months by 50%. The government say, look, we realise that operators can't pay 50% of rent when they've not been trading. We will step in and pay 25%, and operators pay 25%. And potentially what would happen is that could be a tapered payment. So in Q2, the government could pay the whole 50%. In Q3, they might pay 25%. And in Q4, nothing. And contrary to that, the tenant, as his business improves, might pay nothing in Q2, might pay 25% in Q3, and might pay 50% in Q4. Now that will give us all breathing space and time to rebuild our businesses. So what we want to do is make sure that we have a bounce back to pay for all the help that's happened during this period and make sure businesses stay around. If we have mass administrations, mass CVAs, there's going to be mass job losses, there's going to be businesses not able to repay back the business loans, the government is going to have a huge debt crisis, and that's not going to be good for anyone. So we need to come to a sensible solution that gives everyone 9 months to resolve the problem. And actually landlords, operators, tenants, and the government sit down together and realise this is a collective problem and we need to resolve it. I'm in the lanes of Brighton at the moment, and do you know what? Our shops, our hospitality industries, our bars, our hotels, they're the lifebloods of our society. And when you go out there during a period of COVID-19, it's like a ghost town, and you realise how important these institutions are to our way of life. And if we want to see COVID-19 extending beyond now in terms of repercussions of it, then do nothing. Don't help out these industries, and we're going to have the death of our communities. So it's going to affect everyone. We need to really sort this out urgently. It wouldn't cost a tenth potentially of what the salary furlough scheme is. And I'll be absolutely frank with you, although it might be unpopular, I actually think the salary furlough scheme was almost too generous. We should have tapered it down earlier and saved some of the money to the rent, but to give 80% towards salary furlough scheme, which might be unpopular out there, and give nothing towards rent makes absolutely no sense to me. We need a holistic approach that deals with every major cost centre, because if not, we're going to have ghost towns for city centres. And it's not a scheme that we are coming up with. This has been adopted by Denmark and other countries and has been proven to work. Now, with myself, I am an operator, I am a landlord, and I am a tenant. And our greatest worry wasn't ourselves. Our concern was 120 plus small independent tenants that had businesses at Boxpark. So on day one, we gave everyone rent-free and service charge-free during the period of the lockdown. But you can't expect everyone to do that. So there needs to be a level playing field that everyone understands there's a benefit to doing that. And if somebody came to me and said, look, Roger, you can help your small independent businesses further over the next 6 months by offering them a 50% rent reduction across the 9 months, even though it would mean a greater sacrifice for me, I would take it tomorrow, because it would mean those businesses will survive. And that isn't just some altruistic act for me. That's a sensible act, because I'm only as good as my weakest link. I can't have people coming to Boxpark if there isn't strong food and drink offerings. So I need to help those guys out. And other landlords think the same, and they're willing to help out. But there isn't a framework at the moment that's been adopted by the government that supports this. Now, hopefully they're listening to this. You know, I'm consulting and said, well, UK hospitality, I know they speak to the government, but we need to get something sorted out.
What about when we talk about, so we're opening up our shop, and we've realized that absolutely everything from right now, everything that we sell apparently needs to be quarantined. If you touch it as a customer, it needs to be quarantined for 72 hours after touching it. Now, what's your thoughts on this? Because this is again...
farcical. It's farcical. I mean, you know, I go into my local Tesco's, for instance, and I pick up things, and they've got lots of signage everywhere, and you've done a nice job of it all, you know. But I walk in, and the first thing that I want to do, and the first thing that should be happening with customers, is everyone should have to sanitize their hands at a point of entry. So what we need is, there's some things that we seem to be obsessive about, but the basics we're not obsessive about. So why don't we just insist on the following, that at a point of entry, every single customer that comes in sanitizes their hands, and when they exit, sanitizes their hands. That means that at the point in which they go, and if they choose to wear a mask, they can choose to wear a mask. Let's get back to basics. Let's make sure you hand sanitize when you go in. Let's make sure there's some safe distancing within there. If you as a customer or you as a retailer, because the staff have got a right to choose about safety, insist that people wear masks as they come in, wear masks. But the idea that Tesco's don't have a situation that you can't put stuff out or touch stuff, or Tesco's are putting stuff out every day, and I'm picking it up every day, you know. So we need a bit of sensibility. We need to have a much more holistic approach.
Okay, well, that's such that again. The other thing I was going to mention here is someone has asked, a couple of people have emailed in. They want to know your thoughts on how you think COVID will change our eating and food habits. So I just wanted to mention, we had Wilfred Emmanuel Jones, the Black Farmer, on, and he was just talking about how he felt potentially, you know, supermarkets won't be here in 10 years. What's your view on that, Roger?
I love that question, Holly. So I'm going to be really controversial, and I'm going to say it's not going to change us a lot. Okay, one thing I've always been fanatical about is the customer experience. I've always believed in one simple line, that if you're not special to the customer, you won't exist. With retail, what I believe is that retail, we try to make it complex, but it's only three things. There's three core things that you need to get right. It doesn't matter whether it's online, and it doesn't matter whether it's in store. And it is, content is everything. You know, make sure that you've got absolutely fantastic content. So in my case, it might be the quality of the food, it might be quality of the drink, quality of the environment, quality of the events, okay? But make sure you got fantastic content. Now, there is no better way of showing off content than a store. You can hopefully touch and feel that product. You know, you can never get a better experience. And even the largest technology companies in the world know this. You can trace the success of Apple products back from when it had a retail strategy. Steve Jobs knew this. You know, I often equate buying things online like watching fireworks on TV. You just don't get the sensory experience of touching that product.
Yes.
So stores have an incredible ability of letting you interact with that product, smell that product, touch that product, you know, try on that product, so you know it's absolutely right. So stores have a massive tip when it comes to being able to show content. Then the next thing is, you can have the best content in the world. If you don't have traffic or you don't have footfall, you won't succeed. Okay, now it's really expensive to get traffic online. Look at some of the PPC campaigns from Google. It wouldn't be unheard of to be charged £1 for one click to your website. But you know what? Stores are a fantastic way to generate footfall, because people are able to go into stores, they're able to photograph that product, they're able to have a conversation about that product in terms of social media. And then finally, and it's the most important point, you've got great content, you've got that traffic. They're the two key things, but that matters. Doesn't matter a bit if you don't have conversion. If you don't convert that customer that loves that content, that's been in your store, into somebody that buys, well, guess what? Online, you might be lucky to get maybe a 1% conversion rate. Stores, it wouldn't be unheard of to convert at 10 times that level, 10% conversion rate. So why do I believe in physical retail? When everyone else is zigging, I'm zagging. I'm running into independent stores because people feel special, because you can show your content in an incredible way, because you can generate traffic, and most importantly, you can convert at 10 times the level of online. Now, that's about stores. Now you talk about the customer. Okay, if you really want to talk about the customer, we have to really talk about the psychological needs of the customer. So we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the needs of the customer. And one of the great needs of a customer is they need to feel special, which I mentioned before, but they also need to have a feeling of a community. Okay, so I don't buy into this long-term change of habits and people are starting going to do things, and maybe a drone is going to fly through the air and deliver my food at my doorstep. Do you know what? If that happens, I don't want it. I want to go back to simplicity. I want the old ways of doing things.
And we were speaking yesterday where I was talking about sort of 1930s customer service, and it was really, really fascinating because you know, it was sort of Mark, well, it was with Mark Constantine from Lush, and he was basically saying that there is this element of pure brilliant customer service, that connection, and if you can convert that one person and through this time, they're going to stick with you. I mean, you would have to do a lot wrong, you know, they will stick with you.
For everyone listening out there, don't buy into the rubbish that's out there that SMEs can't survive. I will make one prediction from COVID-19. That one thing I believe will happen. It will be a new world order when it comes to big businesses and small businesses. It's going to be the big businesses that are really going to struggle. So this is actually the time to grow as a small business. Don't be worried by all the hype. Take your bounce back loan and bounce back strong.
Oh my God, you know what? You've made me completely emotional. I
don't
would have thought that something like that would have made me emotional. You know why? I think for now 10, 11 weeks, you know, I've been talking about this, and to hear your passion and to hear even, you know, my thoughts and thinking, am I right? And to hear you say it too, it makes me so helpful for this community that I really adore. And so much pain has gone through these times. You know, they have not been able, you know, the fear of survival. And you and I know, Roger, what a dream is. And, you know, when you've wanted your dream to survive, you can liken it to having a child. You know, these people are putting everything in. And so to hear you say such positive things, it makes me emotional because I love this lot. And
Holly, look, you know, no one has pushed more businesses more than you have. No one has pushed the concept of, you know, being a woman entrepreneur than you have, which are two fantastic things. But you're also right in the point that you mentioned before that you did was try to connect technology with SMEs and small businesses, and that's absolutely key. So it's key now with small business strategy. You have an online strategy, you have an in-store strategy, but it's not enough just to have good content, guys. You've got to create traffic. And I'm not saying this as a sales line for Holly, but that's why things like Not on the High Street were, because they create you traffic to your site. So what the future needs to look like is we need to have a joined up, integrated approach where you've got your online store, where you've got your actual shop. You've also worked with marketplaces like Not on the High Street. And it's a technology that binds that all together through your POS system. So you're effectively creating a single stop file. For instance, at Boxpark, we've rolled forward our click and collect policy. Why? Because there are going to be some customers that are going to be nervous about coming into Boxpark and queuing up and waiting. So we want to just make it simple for them that they can pre-order in terms of what was meant to be a 6-month process. and condense that into a 6-week process so we can roll that out. That's the same things that you need to think about individually as SMEs.
Roger, you have been phenomenal. I could talk to you for another hour. You've given us an hour of your time.
Can I leave you on 2 final notes? You know,
yes.
If believe in yourself, if you're an SME, you've got no greater chance to grow than now. And for all of those women entrepreneurs out there, you know, you've got a natural advantage in the fact that you're a woman and you understand the innate customer and the needs. So, you know, I wish you all the best. Trust me, trust your instincts. You know, in my case, most of my best employees are women. So I know if you can really go for it, you can make it an incredible success. And I wish you all the best.
You make me emotional again, Roger. You've got to go.
Sorry, I'm going.
Lots of love.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
You wouldn't think that rent would make me emotional. But you know what? He speaks such sense. He's so intelligent. He's got such experience. Look how much he believes in all of you. And, you know, why do I get emotional? Because it's just I worry, and I just have such love. I have such love. So when I hear someone else saying it's going to be okay for you, it really affects me. Right, let's just talk about God. How am I going to summarize such wise words? Right. We need to step in and look at rent. We need to look at customers and relationships with stores in mind. You know, Roger was saying there, wasn't he? He absolutely believes in shops. So you've got to have your online side. You've got to have maybe your physical side. So if you had a customer coming into your store, how could you convert them into a customer that firstly was for free? They just walked in. Now, how could you convert them to someone that keeps coming back? One thing there will be is a new world order with big businesses and small business. It will be the big businesses that will really struggle. We'll create a vacuum for small businesses to fill. Those SMEs can move straight into that space that the big businesses leave. Believe in yourself if you're an SME, as there is no greater chance than now. Roger also said, us women are fantastic. We will understand the customer like nothing else. And just generally there, Roger is fantastic. You need to go and listen to his podcast that I did. You need to have a look at when Boxparks are opening. Thank you, Roger, if you're still listening. I enjoy listening to you talk so much. And lots of love from me to you all.